Well, welcome everyone. I will give you fair warning. I am having a little bit of slow internet, so hopefully I won't get locked up and frozen on you. And if that happens, I do apologize. These are the times we live in, and internet speeds are really important these days. So my name is Nathan Pritchett, and I'm the executive director at Fab Lab Tulsa. I'm going to do just a brief introduction. I know it's late in the week. It's also early in the morning for some of us. And a lot of the conversations we've been having all week have kind of talked about some of these topics. So what I'm hopeful for today is that we can just kind of keep expanding on those conversations and keep building these connections. It's interesting for us, this conference is just so valuable. And so we use a phrase around here sometimes, kind of joking, but it's kind of true, which is sometimes it's hard out there for a fabber. And unlike a lot of professions, we're not accountants, so there's not a professional development conference or a social hour, every Thursday night where we can go and talk to other people and learn what they're dealing with and what their experiences are. And so we do sometimes feel kind of isolated and like we're on an island. And so it's really important that we take this time to get together, commiserate or have fellowship, whichever words you choose. and so hopefully that's basically the agenda today, is to use this roundup as a time to talk amongst ourselves and share best practices. I know in some earlier discussions throughout the week, I've had a chance to kind of share what happened to us. I don't think it's worth going through a long presentation on that, but we were actually in a classroom. Trevor and I, in that week in March, were in a classroom on a Wednesday, and it turned out that a parent of one of the students on that campus had just returned from Italy and tested positive for COVID-19. And we got a call at 8 o'clock that night to not come back. And then we didn't return to school. And so March, April, and May. And then as our summer was beginning, our entire community decided to do a virtual summer. So every group that works with kiddos here in Tulsa all committed to doing these virtual opportunities. And we had to really quickly, with a very short runway, try to basically reimagine our programming, the programming we'd spent 10 years developing and perfecting and we're really comfortable with. And so we've definitely struggled through that and are basically doing the best that we could. And I'll kind of leave with that. One of the things that we always try to think about in a phrase, and it's really kind of two questions that we're always thinking about, is the first one is, who do we serve? And we know who we serve. We serve students, we serve their parents, we serve teachers, we serve after school orgs, we serve our community. But the question that really got to us is, how do we serve them? And we've had to really think about how we serve them given this new normal. And so with that, like I said, I don't want to belabor it and go over and rehash things that people have presented in other sessions. I really think it's more valuable that we jump into it and start our discussions. And so with that, I'm going to throw it over to Sonia, and she and the Fab Foundation team are going to kind of help me get us into these breakout sessions, since they're experts in Zoom that I can't facilitate.
You're amazing, and we are definitely not experts in Zoom. We're fumbling through like everyone else. But good morning to everyone. And Nathan, I really appreciate those two questions. And what I'd like to do before we jump into some open discussion, then go into breakout groups, is maybe do a round of introductions. Let's find out who's all here. This is family. And maybe when you introduce yourself, your name, your location, AKA Fab Lab, but maybe also answer one of those two questions at least. You know, who do you serve and how you're serving them? I think that would be great. And I will make sure we write it in the chat as well. So by the time we make it around to everybody, you know how you're introducing yourself. And maybe I'll model by example. I'm Sonia. I work at the Fab Foundation, and we serve our Fab Lab network, as well as some direct service as it relates to K-12 educators and others who are trying to establish Fab Labs. Brian, I can see you, so I'm gonna kick it off to you. And just kick it off to the next person, and we'll keep going that way.
Well, good morning. My name is Brian Purvis, formerly of the Fab Foundation. I ran a mobile lab in Boston for them. Being my background as an educator and the fact that I was just working at a school this spring, the people and my mission is towards school systems, traditional school systems, and bringing digital fabrication and making into their everyday life. And I'll kick it now to Sarah.
I'm Sarah Prendergast-Wallace. I work for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, running their Fab Lab programs. We have a mobile Fab Lab, and then we have a stationary lab that's just for teacher professional development. So I kind of serve two different communities, the students of CMSD who don't really have a lot of experience with technology and cool fabby things, and then also the teachers who also are struggling with resources. So we're trying to, like Brian said, bring fab stuff to a really traditional. And let's go to Trevor.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Trevor, you're good.
All right, perfect. Trevor Finsel. I'm here with Nathan at Fab Lab Tulsa, one of the education assistants. And we serve most of K through 12 here in the Tulsa area. And some of the colleges, if not a class here, and they're maybe about once a year. And as far as how we serve, still kind of working on that. Looking at working as much through Zoom as possible, and just kind of waiting out the school year to see how the rest of the schools are going to handle their meets and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of waiting for that.
Yeah, I should tell everyone, so Trevor's the captain of our mobile Fab Lab. Absolutely.
Already muted myself. Let's go with John.
Hi, everybody. John Doctorick. I'm the Director of STEM Outreach at Carnegie Science Center, which includes Fab Lab Carnegie Science Center. Let me pop up in the chat questions. So we serve a wide-ranging audience from underserved school districts that surround Pittsburgh's North Shore to general museum attendees at the Science Center itself, and pretty much everybody within a 2-hour radius of Pittsburgh that's interested in digital fabrication. Just real general introductions, like how to get people onboarded, take people that have never experienced computer-aided design and get them into the lab and have them comfortable with doing design and fabrication within 90 minutes to 2 hours. So I'm going to pick on Steve because I know Steve. Steve, go ahead.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Luciano. I'm the Mobile Fab Lab Education Coordinator at Fab Lab Carnegie Science Center. I do a lot of the things that John said. We have our 2 mobile labs that we serve the population of Allegheny County, the Pittsburgh area, but also in general, all of Western Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Eastern Pennsylvania. We went as far as Hartford to go to Aztec, the Association of Science and Technology Centers. But we also serve the wider population of teachers here in the area for doing professional development, other museum educators as well. And how we serve them, as John said, getting people comfortable with digital fabrication, excited about digital fabrication, and sort of building that skill base so that they can grow. I don't know if you can see it on the wall behind me, but our motto here It's reversed here is making makers, so that's really what we try to do. And I will throw it to Tabitha.
Good morning, guys. I'm actually part of Nathan and Trevor's crew as well in Tulsa. I'm the education coordinator, and I'm new to this ship. Just started at the end of May. So my who we serve is identical to Nathan and Trevor, and how we serve them is identical as well. So, and I'm going to pass it off to Lydia.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lydia Ford. I'm with the Fab Foundation, and indirectly support K-12 educators, students, the community as an administrative assistant and support to the education team. Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, who didn't go? Matt Waitman? I don't think we heard from him, right? I just recognize his name from a lot of emails. So,
well, I was you when I first came in here. I had to change my name over. I think because I followed your link in the email, maybe, and so because I kept looking for my name, and I'm like, where am I? And then I realized. Yeah. Anyway, I am Matt Waitman. I'm from Southwestern PA. I work for Intermediate Unit 1, and we serve local school districts in 3 of our counties, as well as we have 3 of our own schools where we serve students with emotional support, therapeutic emotional support, and also what we call the alternative ed students, who are students. These are all students who did not do well in their own school, whether it's because of learning disabilities that they have or just behavioral problems that they have. So we serve a very specific population of students within our own schools. So we have labs in each of those schools now that we work with those students to try to teach them some of the digital fabrication skills. We also have sort of started this fire, and all these local schools now have begun to get their own Fab Labs. So we do a lot of professional development for those teachers. We also have like quarterly meetings where it's, instead of professional development, it's just everybody throwing ideas, talking about what they're doing, and sharing a lot of great ideas. What else are we supposed to, I think that's it, right? Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to go with somebody without a picture, because I don't think we've heard from them yet. How about Kenzo?
Hello, everybody. Are you seeing me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Kenzo. I'm from Brazil. I'm the president of the Institute Fab Lab Brazil, and we serve Fab Labs and the society. And how we serve it, we try to connect Fab Labs between themselves for best practice, and also try to bring the society, the government to the Fab Lab network. So that's it. I'm on my cell phone. I don't know who I should call next.
It's all right. I'm keeping track. Let's do AJ. Ah, perfect. Perfect timing.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Hello. Good morning. My name is AJ Hart. I am at Northwest Arkansas Community College in Arkansas in the U.S. I am fairly new to my role, and our Fab space is still under development, but we have big plans for mobile space and things like that right now. It's more of, the plan had been for me to be mobile and take things out to the schools, and because I had just started in October, and about the time we were ready to start moving forward with that, COVID. So kind of pivoted to online programming for summer camps and things of that nature. So just working with K-12, but also expanding to try and do family groups. So try to, get them, the kids as well as the parents interested, and then that way they'll, hopefully funnel in and even potentially, getting them onto the community college campus, and maybe getting them interested in other paths that might be available to them.
Awesome. I know we're getting down to the end, so I can help you.
Yeah, sorry. When I switched on my video, I lost everybody else.
That's okay. Is Jesus?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everybody. Well, I'm Jesus Garcia from Mexico. I work from uh, Foundation Excel. So I'm a coordinator. Sorry, my English is pretty bad, but I can.
Doing great.
Yep. Well, I work. We was.
We lost your audio.
Sorry, I'm from. I'm connected in my cell phone, and I'm trying to my best. Well, we were about to start mobile Fab Lab here in our city, but the COVID strikes us, and so the project is in standby. But we work with low income students, bring them technology. I don't know what else.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Let's kick it over to Dipioti. Is that pronunciated correct?
Are you telling? Is it me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So so it's pronounced Dipjoti. Yeah, it's pronounced Dipjoti Kumar.
Dipjoti.
Kumar. Yeah. So yeah. So funny thing about my name is that my title Kumar. So that basically translates to people who used to make earthen utensils. So we have a surname for them called Kumar. So so my ancestors, they used to make like earthen lamps. That's how I got my name Kumar. So anyhow, so I'm from Assam, India, from India basically, from the northeast part of Assam, of India. So we have started an initiative called sparkbee.org. So basically the idea was to like get people excited about like making and give them an entry point. So we have served to colleges, school students, citizens, like the general public as a whole, through exhibitions, show and tell, workshops. So we'll go with like different like maker kits, and like we sit down in a fair, like basically a bigger fair, and like people will come down, and like the kids will like will make things in the fair itself. So that was one way how we were pushing, like we're trying to go mobile and like be out of our lab and reach out to the people. So along with that, we did some projects with like government organization, non-government organizations also over in India. So a few basic mobile projects that we did was a mobile science exhibition on wheels. So basically it was a bus which was converted into with different like so it was more so that bus was a project which was more like focused on like scientific inquiry. So all the exhibits were designed by our lab, and we like so to experiment with like different experiments that are already set up inside the bus, and we go over different places in the district of Assam, like mostly serving the underprivileged, because over here we have like more than 70% of the population in the rural like space, and like where they are like really like underprivileged to have access to such kind of exposure. And till now, like it's still 2020, and we still find places where this kind of technology has not reached yet, like mainly robotics or like programming or like basic joy of actually making. That's what I like to say is the joy of making that we are trying to spread over here, and ultimately that's how we are trying to empower them by giving them the power to make. So yeah, that is something about us. I'd like to like know more about you guys.
Great. I think we're down to maybe three more. Leanne, are you still here?
I turned on my video, so now you can actually see me. Not every session seems that appropriate. Hi, everybody. It's amazing to hear from each of you. I don't have a mobile lab yet. I would like to have a mobile lab or connect. I'm trying to figure out how to best approach this so that we can make a success. I'm in New York City. Who do I serve? I serve a very broad population, primarily in community gardens citywide. And we are just at the point of completing a project which was the reintroduction of beekeeping in New York City and normalizing it. And in order to do that, what we did was we provided a comprehensive infrastructure for responsible urban beekeeping that included teaching, equipping, mentoring, and supporting in many different ways, infrastructurally, and then also human to human. Part of our mission is to create a new kind of social fabric, and one that is not rankist in a certain sense, and yet, and a learner culture. I'm an old timer from, I was around MIT in the 70s, and in a lab that was a precursor to the Media Lab. And I've been a big admirer of what Neil has done, and Sherry and everybody, and I'm very excited to think with you. Brian Purvis, is that, do I have your name right? Piggybacking, was that your session, Brian?
That was me.
Yeah, so I'd really like to talk with you about that more, because I think that's, it sounds like that's a very important issue to really work with. I've done a bunch of pilots in schools, not making, but with beekeeping, which has a lot in common, I think. And I've come up against some interesting challenges. So anyway, I'm really excited to hear what all of you have to share and make the connection. And if anybody would like to, we can create a community of meeting regularly. And if you wanted help with hosting that, no problem. We, how did we respond to COVID? I just want to say, our program really, the hands-on component is extremely important, and people normally come from everywhere to come to our big apiary where we can train them on multiple hives over a full season. And we also do academic, the more academic side in a classroom setting normally. So it was easy to transition to the classroom, the hands-on a little more challenging. I have to pitch. Let's see, Jesus Garcia.
So Jesus is already gone. I think
I'm sorry, who hasn't gone?
It's okay. Yeah, I'm trying to keep a list, and I know we have people jumping in still, so it's gotten a little more complicated.
Yeah.
Abhinav, I don't think you've gone. I don't know if you're able to jump in.
Hi. Hi everyone, I'm Abhinav. I'm an undergraduate student from India. So presently I'm 2020 graduate, and presently I'm unemployed. You can say like I'm self-employed. I'm also a part-time entrepreneur. So how do I serve society, especially COVID? I had achieved like we are building low-cost sanitizers for the community, for the local people, and like getting money from the public and making products for the public. So that's what I was doing. So happy to connect here.
Great to have you. And then I think, Jeffrey, have you had a chance? And I know we're going to run up on our time frame if we can.
Oh, hello. Yeah, I'm in Malawi, and I've been interested in starting a mobile Fab Lab here. Although I've moved to focusing on a stationary one, although I think the impact would be much greater, at least in terms of exposure, because I'm very much interested in both awareness and education for Fab Labs, and so the majority of the population is in rural areas, and so it's a very useful paradigm. to do so. And I think you know, the trade-off is about, well, you know, they serve different purposes. A mobile lab can bring awareness, you know, quickly to a lot of people. Then impact is the next question. I mean, can you actually, you know, impact in that way? So I'm interested in what other people are doing.
Yeah, I'll talk about that when we get done with introductions, because I think I can help set the stage for real life impact changes. And I think Leopold, I think you might be the last person on my list. If you'd like to do a quick introduction.
Yeah, I just had a look on the page from the Fab Foundation, and it says that the estimated cost of a mobile Fab Lab is about $298,000. So are there any cheaper versions?
Yeah, let's, you know what, let's do, Aiden, I can't remember if you or Lydia are kind of in charge of bringing us back to the presentation.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that right now.
Thank you everyone for the introductions. That was great. Like I said, this is really about community and getting to know one another and building these connections. And so seeing your faces and hearing your voices and learning your stories is really valuable. So before we kind of move to the next stage, let me kind of set up what our mobile Fab Lab experience was. Keep in mind, we are in the US, and so the things that are possible and available to us might be different than what you have, and there are certainly different options. I've seen mobile labs as simple as a 3D printer in a box that you put in the back seat of your car, and you drive to a school and you carry it in on a cart, and that's it. In fact, we had done that for some time, all the way up to, you know, like a Class C RV style and everything else. We utilize a tow vehicle and trailer combination. And so the good news is the trailers have a very, very long lifespan. Ours is 5-6 years old, and it still looks and runs brand new. And then tow vehicles can be switched out if you need to do that. A tow vehicle here in the US is about $35,000 to start out with, and our aluminum trailer costs about $50,000. So just in the tow vehicle and the trailer, it's a pretty significant investment. And from there, we built out rolling carts. So we have 2 laser cutters. Each of those laser cutter carts, honestly, is probably about $20,000 each. We have a vinyl cutter cart. We have 30 computers in what we call a cow, computer on wheels. We have 30 soldering irons. And so over time, we've added to ours. So I can definitely see where you could get to that $250,000 number. And our investment in ours is probably in that $175,000 to $200,000 range. As far as impact, the year we opened and we first started seeing kids here in Tulsa, we could only get 1 school that would let us experiment with their students. And so we saw 65 students that year. The next year with our physical location, we saw about 800 students. And then in our 3rd year, that grew to about 2,000. And really, we reached a peak of the amount of impact we could make because of the limitations on having a physical space. It's basically very difficult to move children around cities, and you lose lots of time. And so the first year that we switched to a mobile lab where we went to them, the first impact was we grew our program from about 2,000 to 4,500 students. We also saw that we were able to reach a broader distance, and so we were able to get more than 20 minutes away from the lab. And so we were able to add in rural communities and groups like that, and people that were further away than a traditional bus ride that can be done in the middle of a school day. Even more valuable, though, the impact and the time we spent with students was longer. So because they didn't have to show up at school, get their coats, check in, get on a bus, drive across town, and then get back on a bus to be back before school ends. We were able to add that time in classroom time. So our team shows up at 8 a.m. We stay there till 3. We're there for the full day. We also are able to stay the whole week and all these kinds of things. So the hours of instruction and the impact just grew enormously. So if you're considering a mobile Fab Lab, definitely send me a note and I can kind of share what those impact numbers look like. They're pretty astronomical in comparison to what we were doing before. So I told everybody I wouldn't get all preachy, but I did. So Sonia, do you want to drive us through into the discussion questions and then the brainstorm and breakout rooms?
I sure can. I'm just trying to post in the chat. One of my favorite mobile labs is actually on a bike, done by one of our most senior and wisest members of the Fab Lab network, Bart, who lives out in the Amsterdam area. I will also share out a deck that has a range of mobile labs that Bart collected over the years that shows bikes, RVs, the wide range that Nathan spoke to. And then to just speak to what someone mentioned that they found on the Fab Lab site, that is the original format of a mobile lab, but our community is a community of makers and they iterate and change and create things that make sense for their own communities. And so that is just a baseline, but there are definitely tons of models. And so at some point when we're in breakouts, I'll find the deck and I'll share it out with everyone. Our goal today was to get everybody together and start talking about what's happening to existing mobile labs now that we're amidst the COVID-19 crisis. For the most part, mobile labs, particularly in the US, get to visit schools, after school programs, and community events. COVID-19 has put a wrench in all of that. And so earlier this year, at the top of all the COVID crazy, I started reaching out to a couple of the mobile Fab Lab managers and leaders that I know, just to say, what's going on with your lab? Are you interested in doing something maybe creative as a network? Because all of these labs are independently operated. But could we potentially come together and rethink our programming in a way that everyone would benefit during a COVID-19 crisis? And so the plan for this session was to continue that conversation, but not just to talk, but to actually do a little design and brainstorming work. And so that is the goal of the breakout sessions. And so you'll see here in our agenda, we basically want you to go into those sessions and brainstorm ideas for building a project together based on your experience at your lab, even in your experience with things like community gardens, which I think is really interesting, the conference and the discussion that we've had thus far in our introductions. If you could build a network-wide mobile lab project, what would it be? Use the design process and create something together. And so that's the idea. And I think because we did spend quite a bit of time in introductions, we'll just move on to the breakout groups and then we'll come back together and chat. I do want to acknowledge, though, a couple of people that I realized we missed in introductions. I think it was Daniel Thorin, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and Stuart. So we see you. We're glad you're here with us. And if you did not get a chance to introduce yourself, please write a little note in the chat. Just let us know where you're from. And of course, you'll get a chance to do that in your breakout groups. Aiden, could you go to the next slide? And so these are breakout room instructions. We'll have about a half hour or so. We planned a big chunk of time for this, so we didn't have to feel so rushed. So what we'll do is plan for you to be in the breakout group for a half hour, but we will check in with you to see if you want or need a little bit more time before we just bring you back in. But during your breakout session, please select someone to facilitate the discussion. Please select someone to take some notes. And please select someone to report out on behalf of your group. And yes, Thorne, we will link these documents for you. I believe Lydia is working on that right now. And have a little fun while you're there together. And I see some notes in the chat that continue to come up about starting mobile labs and need to be addressed, if not here, then in the future. So, okay, yeah, and Brian, if there's time, we can definitely do that as well. And we won't get to everything here, but I would encourage you to exchange contact information and follow up with people. We will also, as the facilitators for this session, make sure that we share notes out with everyone to make it a little easier. And Lydia is saying she does not have a document. Lydia, if you click the link, hold up, let me do that for you. I'm going to put it in the chat. And the notes document does also have all of the information that you see in the slides. Oh, I think I just sent it to Lydia privately. Sorry, let me try that again to send it to everyone.
Zoom fun.
Yeah.
Be
We
fun.
have to be patient with ourselves and each other. It's all good. So does everybody see that Google link?
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure people can actually get into the document before we release you into the wild, as they say. And thank you, Daniel, for introducing yourself, and Stuart.
Yes, sorry if I missed someone.
No worries. I gave us a complicated way to do introductions, but I hope it was a little fun and not too stressful. So does everybody have the document? Okay. Lydia, are we ready to do breakouts?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so guys, we're at 9:41. We'll give you about a half hour in your breakout groups, but we will check in, and Lydia, lead us to the other side.
All right, beaming you guys up. Thank you, babe.
I think we might all be muted, which I guess is okay until everybody's ready to talk.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. I still see some people still popping in, so we might wait here just a moment. So Sonia, do you have a preference for how we report out? I am trying to get into a different view so I can actually see the Google Doc, but
Yeah, I just suggest going by group number.
Okay.
And if there's any volunteers.
All right, well, we're going to start up at the top. Again, it's hard for me to see you all and the Google Doc at the same time. So
Aiden placed it in the chat. Thanks, Aiden.
So let's start out with reporting from group one. So that's John, Kenzo, Tabitha, Traver, Babkin, and Jesus. Is there someone from your group that would like to speak for a couple of minutes?
I will. So our group actually spent quite a bit of time talking about what our instruction for students looks like right now. And since the majority of it has been virtual, we talked about poor student turnout, what kind of classes and courses we've offered, whether there's an opportunity to get a final manufactured product to students, and then creating, that kind of led us into a discussion about creating a network of labs and their specialties. And we know that Scopes is out there, and we know that Scopes has some lesson plans on it, but we talked about whether or not we could give Scopes a specific category that was virtual classes, and then had some of us from all over the world uploading, even if it's a video lesson, just a quick snapshot so we can see what virtual classes look like for different labs and how that can be drawn into each other's labs. And then we really talked about a lot about one of the mission statements and goals really for Fab Labs International is to be this network of co-teachers, and we're really being given this true authentic opportunity to literally co-teach with each other from across the world. And so John was in our group, and he talked specifically about how at his location they have the ability to look through a directory of their staff and see what a focus topic for their staff members are, so he can pull from those specific people. So why couldn't we just do that for mobile Fab Labs as well? So like if Tulsa has a specific area of interest that we're really good at teaching when it comes to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, let's put that as our focus, as our area of focus. And even with our different staff, Trevor may be better at something than I am, and I may be better at something than Nathan is, but we could list our specialties in that. So if John is wanting to co-teach a class, since we're doing it virtual anyway, there's nothing that stops me from co-teaching a class with him. So we really focused on like building that aspect of our network. And then I think that's most of what I'm reading. Sorry, I'm reading through the notes real fast.
That's okay.
Yeah,
well, that's a really interesting line, is that this virtual environment actually enables us to teach with co-teachers and partners across the network.
But that was pretty much our main focus.
Is there anyone that has any questions for group one that they'd like to ask or on that topic or thoughts? Okay, let's hear from group two. So This is the group that has Sonia, Brian, Thurnan, Diota, and Daniel.
Okay, who's going? I took the notes, so I'll fly through that a little bit, and then maybe Thorin or someone else can jump in with what I miss. We had a two-pronged conversation. The first, a more practical, just run-of-the-mill talk about mobile Fab Labs and the need for hacking, kind of what that looks like in different situations and different modes of going from, wow, I'd love to have a mobile Fab Lab, to points along the way. It's not always 0 to 60 model. Sometimes it's a little at a time, and that varies. And then after talking about that, we segued into the COVID era and began to talk about how that has changed the very nature of a mobile Fab Lab. What made us special was we take the Fab Lab to the people who need the Fab Lab, and now we can't do that anymore. And we began kind of sourcing ideas, most of them involving the internet, for bringing people together and for bringing projects back to the people. The weak spot there is the internet. And we had some folks in our group talk about, well, what do we do when we can't do virtual Zoom calls to bring our constituents to the machine? And I don't know if we really had a definitive answer to that. And we kind of want to throw that back out at the group as a whole. You know, how much we rely on the internet to build community between our Fab Labs is now in many ways laid bare. You know, we can do that, it's great. But if we do not have that connectivity, it really challenges us as mobile Fab Labs. So Thorin, anyone else want to pop in there?
Yeah, I think what you're discussing is something that a lot of us talk about. So we consider our lab to be a community lab and a community space, and it's community programming. And when you're not able to have contact with your community, what does that mean? And I think that's part of the struggle that we're all talking about. Is there anyone that has any questions for group 2 or has any thoughts about that? Quiet this morning.
We also,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we also added one point to this. So like what happens like when if people so it will be a situation where like maybe like 2 out of 4 people won't be able to have access to internet. So we have like this like basically worksheets which are delivered to the students itself. Like, so it has to be sort of a node, like distributed nodes sort of a thing, where like we have different committees, different places. Even there is a gap, like transportation gap between 2 communities, and whatever the materials are there in one community, they can build up maybe some project within that community, and they can have a hard copy, like they have a printed out copy worksheet, and that is distributed among the community, and they work through the worksheets and like learn that particular skill. So yeah, that is one point that we can add.
Yeah, I mean, I have two thoughts. So one of the things that we've been utilizing in our community is many of our students are still receiving lunch programming, and so they're doing lunch pickups. And so I know it's the old-fashioned way of paper and projects, but we've been able to utilize that to still get information and resources to our students. It's also interesting, and maybe this is something the Fab Foundation could talk about from a policy issue. So it's this, you know, digital access and digital divide. I know a lot of communities, especially on the West Coast, are talking about public internet. And so that's something that as a group, I think we could talk about I know that our local school district here in Tulsa is trying to give out computers to students, and they're trying to give out hotspots. They don't have enough. I know a little bit about this because my wife works in the counseling office at one of the high schools, and they've got kids sitting in their cars in the parking lot of the high school just to access the internet. And so, because they don't have internet access at home. And so, because of the digital nature, literally digital fabrication, maybe that's something as a group we could start to work on policy-wise.
You know, in our group, we were talking about hacking our mobile fab labs. That's a way to hack them. If we could have mobile access points and take those fab labs out, a lot like a food truck, to different areas in the community. We can sit there in our fab labs, provide internet for an area around us for that day. And then also the students, if they know where you are, can access the internet, sends you files, and you can make them and you put them on the table outside or something like that. But yeah, I think in the past, a mobile fab lab that had a hotspot was great, but I think it may be more and more of a necessity.
Sorry, everyone, I'm getting phone calls on this end, so try to keep you up around to listen to that. All right, anything else from that group? Also lost track of what number we're on, so we're ready for group 3. Aiden, Stara, Stephen, AJ, Matt, and Marita.
Yeah, so I'll start it off and I'll let other members of my group chime in. But we talked about the fact that the mobile Fab Lab group is a special breed of mobile Fab Lab or of Fab Lab educators. It's not every day that your Fab Lab can get into a car accident if you're a stationary Fab Lab. So there are a number of things that are unique to this group. And so what's important, I think, is that we create some kind of network or create some kind of community specifically for mobile Fab Lab educators as they're going to different schools and as they're serving a variety of different communities that the mobile nature of these labs allows for. So we also talked about in this community a need for a way to share the resources that we're doing and not try to reinvent the wheel or not feel like we're working in silos all the time. A lot of us are going to spend the next few months probably developing some kind of kit to send to students or to send to families. And why not have a place for all of us to share these kits or to share these types of resources like scopes, but maybe a more tailored approach to scopes so that it's just mobile lab educators or just educators that are working specifically in classrooms and not just stationary labs in a way. But we also talked about the idea of kind of continuing this mobile lab network through either a mobile Fab Lab rodeo event of some kinds, mobile Fab Lab con. I'm not sure if that would just be like a Walmart parking lot for all of our labs of some kind, but the idea for us to all kind of get together in a shared space and be able to share these out. But I think it's important for us to talk, to be able not only to share the resources, but to share the types of things that we're doing and the types of work that is shared, whether it's just simply we go out to schools and excite students about digital fabrication, or it's getting teachers to be ambassadors of digital fabrication in their own schools and allowing them to take that learning on and become the person that's going to share as Brian likes to say, the gospel of digital fabrication to other members of their community. So group 3, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, but feel free to jump in.
Sarah, if you're speaking, I think you're still muted.
Really?
You're good now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We talked about like having a newsletter that's just for us, and doing something where like even as simple as a Google form that gets sent out once a month where we can quickly jot down like what we've been up to in our labs, or have like a mobile Fab Lab of the month spotlight kind of a thing to better establish our community, and share resources and share ideas, and also just like get the ball rolling on the mobile Fab Lab rodeo.
Yeah, Aid, while you were talking, I was thinking, so we just had the pickup truck tailgate stolen off of our truck.
Oh no.
I'm thinking about, flat tires on double axle trailers and broken windshields that the rest of the world probably doesn't think about, but that's just part of the MFL experience. I love this idea about a rodeo. So let's pick a location and gas up the vehicles for those of us, at least here in the U.S., North America. Does anyone else have anything for group 3? Okay. I'm part of group 4, and while I tried to encourage a couple other people to speak, end up falling on me. So we had Jeffrey, Leanne, Stuart, Abhinav, and myself. So we ended up talking a lot about mobile Fab Lab development and operations, because at least 2 of the people in our group don't have mobile Fab Labs yet. And so talking about what that kind of looks like. One of the ideas we had was similar to what other people have talked about, which is how do we assist with the replication of Fab Labs, especially knowing that each of our communities is a little different, our resources are a little different, and that we may need a lot of alternatives. So what works in North America isn't going to work necessarily in Malawi. And one of the ideas we had was to develop sort of a reciprocal exchange program. I've been fortunate enough to be part of one called the Washington Mandela Fellowship with Africa that pairs African leaders with people in the U.S. A gentleman I work with, Usia from Togo, has been able to travel here and spend time at our lab. And then as part of the reciprocal exchange, I'm able to travel there to facilitate some programming, this exchange of ideas, and what this kind of mentoring and transfer of knowledge, and also, just really listening to what they need for their community would look like, and whether we could create a program like that. And so along that line, we also just kind of had these ideas about also presenting next year at the Fab Lab conference, this kind of idea of a rodeo or a track where we can talk about some of the issues and lessons learned and how we did it, and maybe share some more details as far as finances and what it really cost and how it really operates, and really dig in and scratch below the surface to the reality of what these things are operating. So we kind of describe it as the muddy boots truth of what it takes. So I think that just about covers what we talked about. I think one last thing here is, also some online mentoring and maybe some one-on-one, if there were people who have experience that would be willing to take some time to do a 1-hour one-on-one kind of conference with people to assist them. So, any questions for my group?
Yeah, I wonder if everybody, now that we're all together, could we quickly see if people would like to have a follow on Zoom, and we can maybe continue to elaborate some ideas about the MFL Muddy Boots gang. I'd be, willing to host on Zoom or on Meet, or if someone else wants to, maybe in a couple weeks. Does that sound of interest? Or
I love the idea of regular touch bases, because we've always talked about it in the past and we all go off in our own direction after.
Well, what would be the best time? We're all zooming around like a bunch of maniacs. Would it be an evening? Would it be a Saturday morning? Would it be a Saturday afternoon, Sunday? Maybe Nathan, you have probably access to everybody's email.
Maybe. I actually don't think we asked for that. If everyone has access to the Google Doc, let me put in here.
You could do it as a form. It'll be easier because then.
Yeah. I have a list of all of your names that I hand wrote. Okay, I do have a list of everyone who registered for the event. So if you registered for the event through the FabX Live platform, I can reach you.
So maybe you could just send out an ask for a form, and then everybody who wants to be part of that could go in there. And if you'd like me to do some coordinating, you probably have a lot on your plate, and I'd be willing to, kind of administer that for the moment, just temporarily till we figure out what we'd like to do.
I think the best way is if you wanted to create a form.
Okay, I'll put it. How about this?
But let's just put it in the FabX Live website chat for this one.
I'll do that, and I'll also put it in the doc, and that way people can find it later.
Okay. Let me talk to someone on my staff to see if they want to kind of facilitate some of these. What I know is that educators have unusual schedules.
Exactly.
And so, a 9 a.m. Monday morning meeting would probably never happen.
Yeah.
And so I just want to recognize that my day doesn't look like an educator's day. And so
yes, we might be able to come up with a way of seeing how we could get a Moodle or something and figure out a time that might make sense. Another idea was a Slack channel, which is asynchronous.
That's good.
Let's start by just collecting names and email addresses, and then I can send something out. I don't know, Sonia, whether you all have any thoughts on this or whether you had any ideas of.
I would just say we definitely want to see the mobile lab community come together. And so if the community wants to take the lead for that, we're all about it. Because as you said, we're very busy. As John has said, we've talked about it in the past and people have, not had the time. So if we have some folks that can volunteer time to do that, that'd be great. Just keep us in the loop. And we've got 2 mobile labs ourselves. So we'll definitely want to be a part of that process with everyone.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of the newsletter. I think that was Sarah talking about that. So I think, having an opportunity to convene regularly, but also producing some kind of a newsletter would be amazing.
Okay.
I'd be glad to help out where I can. Since I'm kind of doing the consulting thing now, so I don't have a day job, so I'm a little more flexible. So let me know if I can help.
Right, and I love newsletters. I can definitely throw something together. If there's a disk list that we can send me your information thing that I can create a form, that's my jam.
Sarah, you're brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard anyone say they love newsletters, making newsletters.
I do.
That is amazing. Okay, so as some takeaways, I'm actually surprised we still have about 10 minutes left, but so we're going to create a list, and we're going to get some volunteers to kind of help manage this rodeo, the MFL rodeo. And so we've got Brian and Sarah. And
Aiden just gave a nice suggestion of making sure we take advantage of meeting stuff that's out there to figure out good dates and times.
Okay, so we'll start there. I think we can also, I will try to coalesce our notes here. I think there's some definite takeaways, which is kind of some things I kind of expressed that, I don't see a lot of people that run mobile fab labs, so we're kind of on our own sometimes, but a way we can come together, and maybe we can list a couple of these ideas out And it would be great if we could put together maybe an annual calendar of what we're going to do here in the next 2 or 3 weeks that takes us to next year and for the conference. And then maybe that's a way we keep it going, as we just set a year's worth of, whether Zoom calls or in-person things, so we keep this going, and then we can go ahead and commit to that year program.
And we got a nice note in the chat from Stuart about pop-up videos as well. So that's pretty cool. Maybe thinking about, how to point people to videos, lessons, the whole, kit and caboodle of things that all the mobile labs are producing is something to think about too. And
so, Sonia, I saw in your note that you said that there might be a way that we could add to our profiles in Scopes DF if we, like, as another checkbox that we're part of an MFL.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be great. So then we'd be able to go back in and update our profiles, like, to add that.
Sonia,
yeah.
Could you give me an email so that I could share ownership of this forum with you, or anyone else who wants to collaborate on managing this? I can share the forum.
Well, I think to start with, it'll be me.
Okay, Nathan.
So I'm putting mine in the chat.
Actually, you can jump into the forum from, once you test it, from the Mobile Lab Roundup. I put the link in. You can go there and put that in, and I'll then share the document to you so you can also alter it.
Okay.
And I think people started a system in the notes page where they just start writing their emails next to their name.
Okay.
As well.
So, yeah, if I can capture emails for now, that'll be where we'll start, and then we can have a follow-up conversation about whether we want to move to a Slack channel or some other form. So
you do. You need permission to open it? Goodness. Sorry. Let me figure out what I'm doing wrong. I probably put the wrong link in.
And then I did have a closing thing I wanted to share with everybody, because I consider this group the close network group. But Nathan, I can do that after you sort of wrap up this piece. I only need like 2 minutes.
Yeah. No, I think I'm done. So unless anyone else has anything else they want to say before Sonia closes this out, I really appreciate your time. I know we're at the end of the week. I'm definitely feeling the stress cracks of, one of my workshops was like at 4 a.m.
Oh.
Yeah, brutal. Keeping up with the Europeans is hard. So it truly is hard out there for a fabber. But I really appreciated the week. I appreciate you all, and thanks for giving your voices this project. And so I will do my best to get us to this next stage so that we can carry this forward for this next year.
Thank you so much, Nathan. And I just want to give Nathan that round of applause, because he's a very busy man. And I'm like, Nathan, can you? And he said yes. And so I appreciate his leadership so much.
I need to learn how to say no.
I'm just going to ask Aiden to throw up our last slide. This is something we're trying to get better at the Fab Foundation, and I know a number of you have communicated to me that we haven't been great at letting you know all the things we do. We talk a lot on the K-12 side about mobile Fab Labs, about scopes, and those are projects, but we don't talk about everything that's happening. We are really shifting from thinking of ourselves as a group of projects to a department. We have a K-12 Fab education department. So I am there. Liz has joined us, Aiden, Alethea. We also have Melvin, Lydia, and Christine, who some of you got to meet this week. And so that work is the mobile lab work, but it is also these 3 buckets of work: consulting and design work, development and training work, and student programming. And so if our current close family members don't know what we're doing, it's sort of hard for the rest of the world to know what we're up to. But we want to continue to do this work in partnership with all of you. And so just wanted to make sure I shared that with you all today, and request that you all keep up with what we're doing. Of course, there's the work that most of you have contributed to on the Scopes website. We also launched a Fab Educators Network Facebook group. And then of course, we're, you know, at the Fab Foundation social handles, but we'll share out our deck and some of these links, but just wanted to share this with you today and tell you all how much I appreciate you being in the vineyard with us as we try to do more to get digital fabrication in the hands of teachers and students all around the world. So that is my little pitch and promo commercial, but it's important that you guys know what we're up to. And Aiden, you can stop sharing the screen. Thank you.